All right, chapter 2 of Treasure Island, the sea chest and the blind man. A strong, pungent smell of tobacco and tar rose from the interior of the old sea chest as we opened it. On top of that was an elegant suit of clothes never worn. Under that was a tin, a quadrant, tobacco, a bar of silver, West Indian shells, a Spanish watch, several compasses, and 2 pistols. At the bottom of the chest lay a bundle wrapped in oilcloth and a canvas bag that gave forth the jingle of coins. I pride myself on being an honest woman, my mother said. I'll take what I'm owed, and not a farthing more or less. She began to count the money into the bag. As she counted, we heard a familiar sound. It was the tapping of the blind man's stick upon the frozen road. It drew nearer while we held our breath. Then we heard the blind man's voice, along with several others. And this little part over here says, with nothing but sea and sky in sight, the sailors in the 1700s used a navigational tool called a quadrant to find their way on the open waters. This quarter circle shaped instrument measured the angle between the North Star and the horizon, which sailors used to determine their distance north or south of the equator. Look at that. That kind of looks like those compasses that we use, which would make sense, that it's called a compass, and they use, because the quadrant was used to find their way in open water. So it was, think maybe that's where that word compass came from with our math tool there that makes the circles. All right, so here's the picture. You see his mom counting the silver. She began to count the money into the bag. As she counted, we heard a familiar sound, the caption says. Mother, I whispered nervously. Please hurry up. I'll hold on to what I have so far, she exclaimed. I'll take this to the square account, I informed her as I picked up the bundle wrapped in oilcloth. Then we groped our way downstairs, threw open the back door, and ran out into the darkness of night, 2 desperate souls unsure of what to do next. A silvery moon peeped out from behind the ominous storm clouds. The moonlight allowed us to glimpse the ditch that lay behind the inn. Without hesitating, we made our way toward it. There we waited, breathing in the cool air night, out of sight, but within earshot of the inn. Before long, a number of shadowy figures appeared. Inside! A chilling voice commanded. It was the blind man. Find him! The others scurried forward in the darkness. A few seconds later, we heard a gruff voice call out, Bill's dead! Search him! Shrieked the blind man. Find the key or you'll answer to me! There was a lengthy pause and then another cry. Someone got here before us! The key's gone! Then, find the sea chest and smash it to pieces! screeched the blind man. The sound of his voice sent a cold shiver running down my spine. I heard a commotion and the sound of footsteps coming from the upstairs area of the inn. Moments later, the window to the captain's room was flung open. Such force it caused the glass to shatter and break. Then a man with a face resembling that of an angry gargoyle leaned out the window into the moonlight. Do you know what a gargoyle is? So, like if you've ever seen those big, this is me, this is Black talking. We're pausing in the story to talk about gargoyle. You know what a gargoyle is? What is a gargoyle?
Gargoyle is like a statue. It looks like a statue, and sometimes it goes out as real.
Yeah, in cartoons and stuff, yes. But real life gargoyles, there's real gargoyles.
I'm not sure
okay.
about that. But...
So there's statues that are at the top of very tall buildings. Like if you go look at some older churches that are really tall, and you see these like statues at the top that are like kind of scary things, creatures on the top, those are gargoyles.
But what happens?
What happens? Nothing. They're just statues. And that's something you can research later if you'd like, but there you go. That's what a gargoyle is.
I won't say.
Phew! He shouted. It's like I told you already. Someone's been here before us. They rifled through Bill's chest. Is it there? Pew roared. There's some money, said the gargoyle-faced man, which I imagine is very solemn and angry because gargoyles are supposed to be scary statues. Forget the money, Pew spat. Flint's it's nowhere to be found, I tell ya. Blast it, cried the blind man. It's that boy. I should have dealt with him earlier. He was here just a few minutes ago. I know it. Scatter, lads, and hunt the rascal down. A great to-do ensued in our old inn. Furnace was thrown about and beds were stripped. Doors were forcefully kicked in, and until finally the men came out and declared that I was nowhere to be found. Just then we heard a whistle in the darkness. Ooh. I guess there was some sort of signal. The men had left a guard, and he was warning them of impending danger. Dun, dun, dun. There's Dirk, one of them pronounced. We'll have to scarper and quick, mates. Pew, however, attempted to convince the others to hold their ground and not flee like scalded rats. The boy can't have gone far, he urged desperately. That rascal was here no more than a few minutes ago. Scatter and look for him, you lily-livered cowards. Oh, if I had my eyes, what I wouldn't do right now. Two of the men obeyed Pew and began to search around the exterior of the inn, but the others stood in the road, unsure of their next move. Pew sensed the men's confusion. Get to it, he yelled. If we find what we've came for, we'll all be as rich as kings. Don't stand there skulking. If you had the pluck of a weevil in a biscuit, you would have, excuse me, you would catch him. Hang it, Pew, grumbled one of the men. Don't you think we should take the money and run? He could be anywhere hereabouts. Get off of me, moaned another. Let's call it a day and run before we get caught. Pew's anger escalated and he began swinging his walking stick. He struck at the others right and left in his blindness. They, in turn, cursed the blind man, threatened him in horrid terms, and tried in vain to catch his stick and take it from him. This quarrel saved us. For a while it was raging, another sound came from the top of a nearby hill. Galloping horses, a pistol shot came. Here's a picture of what we were just reading. From the hedge. That must have been the final signal warning the men of... What did I tell you? Oh, that must have been the final signal warning the men of serious danger, for they scattered like rabbits in every direction. In half a minute, only Pew remained. He tapped up and down the road in a frenzy, calling out to his comrades. Johnny, he shouted, Black Dog, Dirk, don't leave old Pure here without eyes to guide him. At that moment, 5 riders swept down the hill at full gallop. Pew sensed he was in their path and cried out, Ah! But it was too late. One of the horses knocked him to the ground and another trampled over him. Pew made one last gasp and then lay silent on the ground. I saw that the horsemen were actually officers. One of them dismounted and checked on Pew, but there was nothing to be done. I jumped up out of the ditch, and after conversing with the officers and calming my mother, I made my way to Dr. Livesey's home. I found Dr. Livesey dining with Squire Trelawney. I told them everything that had happened and showed them the bundle I had retrieved from the sea chest. At first, they were stunned and rather silent, but eventually they were able to think clearly, and we began to converse. Have you heard of this Captain Flint? Dr. Livesey asked Squire Trelawney. Heard of him? The squire cried. Of course I have. Why, John Flint was the bloodthirstiest pirate that ever flew the Jolly Roger. In fact, Blackbeard was a child compared to Flint. So what does it mean by that? Child instead compared to Flint. Yes.
It's like they're shorter.
So they're saying that, so Blackbeard was known as really dangerous pirate, like grizzly guy. And they're saying that Blackbeard was a child compared to Flint. So they're saying that this Flint guy is far scarier and piratey, masculine guy, far more than Blackbeard. So, whoa, big bad guy. Well, said the doctor, suppose this packet tells us where the old buccaneer hid his treasure. What would you do then, may I ask? I would fit out a sailing ship in Bristol. I would fit out a sailing ship in Bristow, the squire declared confidently. I'll take you I would fit out a sailing ship in Bristow, the squire declared confidently. I'd take you and Jim Hawkins along, and I would find that treasure, even if I had to search for an entire year. With that said, the doctor cut the bundle open. It contained two things: a book and a sealed paper. Printed on the first page of the book were the words, Billy Bones, his account. The next 20 pages were filled with dates, sums of money, and little crosses. One line read, June 12th, 1745, 70 pounds off Caracas. Next to this entry were 6 tiny crosses. All right, and so over here, under this picture, it says, when merchant ship sailors saw the Jolly Roger's skull and crossbones flying over a pirate ship, they knew they faced a strong set of armed buccaneers. The symbol stuck with such fear that oftentimes merchant ships immediately surrendered their goods in exchange for their lives. Wow. Wow. Not all ships flew exactly the same variation, and powerful pirate captains became infamous, identified by their customized flags. So what is infamous? So there's famous, and then there's infamous. Famous is where you're usually known for, you're popular and stuff. Infamous means you're known for all the wrong things. So you don't want to be infamous. And here's the boy with Trelawney and Livesey. Trelawney and Livesey are right there, and the boy. With that said, the doctor cut open the bundle. It contained two things: a book and a sealed paper. And then we're back to the story over here. What does it mean? I asked. This is the old captain's account book, said the squire. This entry tells us that the pirates got 70 pounds of loot after they attacked a ship off the coast of Caracas on the Spanish Main. Next, we inspected the sealed paper. The doctor opened it carefully, and a map fell to the floor. It was a map of an island labeled with latitude and longitude, water depths, names of hills, bays, and inlets, and all the details needed to bring a ship safely to anchorage upon its shores. It seemed to me that the island was shaped like a portly dragon. From the map, we could see that the island was about 9 miles long and 5 wide. It had 2 harbors, and there was a large hill in the center marked Spyglass. Several things had been added to the map in red ink. There were 3 crosses, 2 on the north part of the island and 1 in the southwest. Next to one of these, written in a small, neat hand, very different from the captain's, were the words, bulk of treasure here. On the back of the map, in the same hand, we read, tall tree, spyglass shoulder, bearing a point to the north of northeast, Skeleton Island, east southeast, and by east 10 feet. The bar silver is in the north cache. Find it by the trend of the east hummock, 10 fathoms south of the crag with the face on it. The arms are in the sand hill, north point of North Inlet Cape, bearing east and a quarter north, JF. It did not make much sense to me, but the squire was delighted. Tomorrow I'll set off for Bristol, he effused. In 10 days, we'll have the best ship and crew in England. Hawkins shall come with us as cabin boy. You, Livesey, will be the ship's doctor, and I will be admiral. So here's the map, Treasure Island. There, right there, where there's one of the red X that says where the treasure is here, the bulk of the treasure is here. And then there's another one over here and another one over here. So there's treasures over there, but it says the bulk of the treasure is right. Yeah. Yeah. We'll have no difficulty in finding the spot, and we'll have money to roll it in ever after. I'll accompany you, said the doctor, and I hope Jim will too. There's only one man who concerns me. Name the dog, sir, cried the squire. You, replied the doctor, you cannot hold your tongue. Those fellows who ransacked the inn tonight are looking for this map and for Flint's treasure. We have to be extremely careful. You go to Bristow and take my two loyal servants, Joyce and Hunter, with you. Remember, do not breathe a word of what we found. Quite right, said the squire. You can only rely on me to be as silent as the grave. So the squire, along with Joyce and Hunter, set off for Bristow. I stayed on the hall with the squire's gamekeeper, old Red Ruth. After a couple of weeks, Dr. Livesey received a letter from the squire. Here's a picture of them. And here's the letter. Dr. Livesey, the ship lies at an anchor, ready for sea. You never saw a sweeter schooner. Her name is the Hispaniola. Hispaniola. I acquired her through my old friend Blandly. At first, finding a crew troubled me. I wanted 20 men, and I had difficulty finding half a dozen. But then fortune brought me the man I required. I fell into a talk with him on the dock. He keeps a tavern, and I found he knew all the seafaring men in Bristow. It seems he lost his health ashore and was hoping to secure a position as a cook at sea. He had hobbled down here that morning, he said, to enjoy the salty sea air. I was touched by his story and engaged him on the spot to be the ship's cook. Long John Silver, he is called. Ooh, bet you all have heard of that name. He has lost a leg in his country's service. Between Long John Silver and myself, we got together a fine company of seamen. Silver even got rid of 2 men I had already engaged. He explained that they were just the type of men we needed to avoid for an adventure of this importance. I am in magnificent health and spirits, eating like a bull, sleeping like a tree. Yet I am eager to lift anchor, so do come quickly. John Trelawney. P.S. My old friend Blandly has agreed to send another ship after us if we don't turn up by the end of August. He found an admirable fellow for captain, a stiff man, but in all other respects, a treasure. Long John Silver has unearthed a very competent mate. That's the end of chapter 2. See you for chapter 3.